It seems the terrible blows keep coming for Queensland this year. The floods, Grantham, Cyclone Yassi, and now the worst fire in more than a decade. 11 people, mostly children, died in a house fire south of Brisbane last night. They were all from southeast Queensland's Tongan and Samoan communities, and there's been an outpouring of grief at the scene all day. John Taylor reports from Brisbane.
I've been most of the time this morning with a man who lost his 5 children, all his children, 5 of them. The eldest is 18 and the youngest is 7 years old. 3 boys, 2 girls. And he also lost his wife.
What gets me is the thought of those children, 8 children under the age of 18, being trapped in that home, and the grandparents and the mother being there with her children. It's just incomprehensible, and I don't like thinking about it.
A suburban street became a chapel this morning. Grieving family and friends held an impromptu but solemn prayer service. Just around the corner stands what's left of the house at the centre of this tragedy. A fire broke out around midnight, and daylight reveals it must have been an inferno. It'll likely be days until authorities know what caused this fire. At the moment, urban search and rescue workers are still just trying to shore up the building so they can gain entry. But what we do know is that 11 people have died, most of them are children, and that this is Queensland's worst fire tragedy since 15 backpackers perished at Childers 11 years ago. The people who died were members of the Tongan and Samoan communities, and it's believed from just a few families. A steady stream of people today arrived to pay their respects.
You can see leadership from both communities have really fallen in behind the families to make sure they can recover from this, tragedy of immense proportions.
14 people were inside the house when it caught alight. One family had only recently arrived in Australia and was only staying there temporarily. 3 men managed to escape the fire, but one man has lost 5 children and his wife.
He was trying escape and trying to get his family out, but the fire was coming from everywhere because of that gas cylinder that exploded from the bottom, and it was just like a bomb. So then he broke the window and he called his family to jump. He threw down the mattresses, and then he jumped out and waiting his children and the family to jump down. But they all ran into the room and they all huddled together in the room, and they all got burned together there.
John Parla is a Samoan elder, and this morning was helping the community come to grips with its loss.
But as to why it happened, why did God let that happen? Was it a human error? Was it what? Hey, you tell me. It's terrible. It's so hard to believe in. A lot of these, and I don't know, because most of these children were at Maple Park School.
The fire happened in a suburb of Logan City, just south of Brisbane. With nearly 300,000 residents, it's the 6th largest local government authority in Australia. Many of the people are battlers.
It's a very large islander community, Samoan community. There's some 25,000, and we have about 4,000 to 5,000 Tongan.
Mayor Pam Parker proudly grew up as one of 7 children to a single parent in a Housing Commission home. This is the single worst tragedy to ever strike her community.
All I can say is I want to thank the people in South East Queensland. The people from overseas have made contact with my office for their offers of help and support. And your prayers will be greatly appreciated at this time. Thank you.
After the tragic start to the year for Queensland, another community is reeling in shock today from a mass loss of life. This is another community that will remember 2011 as a year of heartbreak, a year of tragedy, and a year when we all had to reach out and look after each other.
Throughout the day, people have made a pilgrimage to the scene of the fire. Authorities this afternoon began removing some bodies. But even religious leaders are struggling to understand what has happened. What words can you say to a community to make sense of 11 deaths in a house fire?
Really hard, because we know that God is a God of love, but this thing that happened there is also, it's just beyond words, So we just, this morning I just speechless. All we do, and we continue to do, is to hug each other. And tears is sort of helping us. That's all we know. We don't have words to explain.